inspiration. I'm so glad you guys could all make it today. Sorry. Today we'll be discussing Teachings of Queen Kunti. So it's a book written by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So before we begin the presentation, I just would like to ask for everyone's blessings so that our team could offer this as a humble presentation to Srila Prabhupada. I mean, without you guys being here and without your support, we would not be able to do this presentation, this offering. So please forgive us if we make any mistakes. So today the team is comprised of Rupini Padma Devi Dasi, Bhakta Oscar, and then myself, Bhakti Marisha. So Roy Prabhu had given us 4 questions that we were to answer at the beginning of our presentation, kind of like as an overview, like how we prepared. So the first question was, how excited, surprised, shocked were we to receive this topic? So for me personally, I was pleasantly surprised because when I was younger, my dad, he had me read the prayers of Queen Kunti every day before dinner or something.
See, it's not.
And although I was young, so I couldn't absorb it as much as I can now, I'm grateful that my dad had me read these prayers as a kid, so that now I can go more in depth and understand it with the help of Srila Prabhupada's purports.
For me, I am excited. I was excited because it gives me an opportunity to dive deeper into the literature and have a reason to stay really steady in my reading, to be prepared. I was a little nervous just because most of the time I feel unqualified to be able to speak on the matter, but when your guru asks you to do something, you try to do it.
So how excited, surprised, shocked were we to receive the topic? That was the question, yeah.
I was actually happy to get this topic because at least there's a focus on, you're reading about Kunti Maharani, and then also Srila Prabhupada has spoken very highly of Kunti Maharani, similar to he has said about like Yashoda. She's very, very qualified. So we're happy to discuss and purify ourselves.
So the second question we were to answer was, what was the planning done to achieve the successful completion of the project? So a couple weeks before the presentation, we did kind of like a Zoom meeting to go over the overall structure. And then after that, we did other Zoom meetings to go over like an outline, and then another Zoom meeting to do like a full run through. And then for me personally, it required a lot of reading and searches for like verses to back up my points, especially yesterday. So it was nice to get the planning, but it was a lot of work, yeah.
Yeah, like Mataji said, as a group, we had to meet and kind of discuss and make sure that we were cohesive as a group to, be able to talk about something that made sense. And personally, to get prepared, I just started this recently. I like to record myself giving the talk, and to make sure that I kind of have a clear train of thought, and I'm able to connect all my ideas together to make sure that you guys are able to understand clearly.
So Marisha Mataji decided on 1st October to give the class. So I was like, when the topic was given by His Grace Dwapan Prabhuji, what happened is that I immediately got hold of this book and I started reading. But I was very confused, and then Mataji with the first Zoom meeting came with the topic that we have to discuss about 1, 2, 3, 4. That was not easier, so then I just picked up the chapters. But then I got so interested in the book that I have to read it after the class also. I'm almost midway through, 200 pages only of this teachings of Kunti Maharani. So then I just picked up the topic, and I got a focus from Mataji, and then I was focusing on that.
So the third question is, what were the limitations and difficulties, if any? So I work a full-time job, so for me, it's finding time during the week to study, read, and do this. So then the previous weekend was rhinostomy, so we were all very busy. And then I also haven't had internet for the past 3 days, so it's a little hard to search things up when you don't have internet. So that's my two difficulties.
Difficulty for me was deciding what I was going to talk about. There's a lot in the prayers. There's 26 prayers total, and there's just so much that we could really explore. So for me, it was really like, what is it that I want to hone in on and be able to share?
Yeah, so I was almost about to not give the class, but I was encouraged by Marisha Mataji, and she said, you just go out there and read, there's nothing else, just read what Prabhupada is written in the book. So that was very encouraging. So I just to read, okay, that's fine. Then I landed up reading, making notes, and then, contemplating also a little bit, and then from there I went.
So the last question was, how much did each of the members contribute? And I think we all tried to contribute equally so that it wasn't a burden on one of us. So what I liked was Rupini Mataji, when we were having our Zoom meeting, she was always there to keep us on track, right? Make sure we got the focus of what we were trying to talk about. And I'm very proud of her for doing the presentation with us, because I know it takes a lot of effort to come up here and speak, so I'm very proud of you for doing that. And then Dr. Oscar, he always gave good suggestions during our meetings, and it was very clear that he had read it thoroughly and went very in-depth with his topic, so I'm very glad to have these as my team members.
Oh yeah, hopefully fairly I did my fair part in this, but yeah, it was nice so far to work and to plan and to get the leadership from these Matajis and get the feedback from these Matajis about making sure that I know what I want to talk about and making sure that I'm making an effort with it.
Yeah, so it was really actually an opportunity came to work with young devotees like Marisha Mataji and Oscar Prabhu, and I think I give credit to both of them because I was trying to intertwine my thought process with them. So it was a learning actually, and the most encouragement I got from all of us is through Marisha Mataji and also through Kunti also. Thank you so much.
So now we will begin with the invocation prayers. We can all do it together. They'll be on the screen up here. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sarvana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Savitam Sarvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Radha Sarvana Lalita Shri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Varevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Alright, so first, Rupini Mataji is going to talk about sort of the background of Queen Kunti and why Kunti is praying to Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, just, and normally go over more time, so Marisha was in the beginning, but still I would just So, thank you so much for the opportunity. So yeah, today we will, I'll be discussing two topics initially, as suggested by Marisha Mataji. One is the background on all Kunti Maharani went through in her journey with her 5 sons, the Pandavas. And then we'll discuss about, little bit I'll touch upon about prayers of Kunti Maharani. Why Kunti Maharani is praying to Krishna. So that's 2 things. And I'll go with my notes. So basically, like we go in the background a little bit about Kunti Maharani's husband is Pandu, so we heard of that. And basically, this is all from the book Teachings of Kunti Maharani by Srila Prabhupada. This is Srila Prabhupada. So what happened is that somehow Pandu, who's the husband of Kunti Maharani, was cursed. So there were 2 curses that came on him at one point. One is that he was not able to beget children, and the other curse was that he died early age. So basically, Kunti Maharani was left with the 5 sons to take care. So so we see that initially only the problem kind of came. So then Durvasa Muni is another person who comes in the picture, because when she was not supposed, then we can ask the question that she's got 5 sons, how did they come? So what happened is she had this special benediction given, which some of the sages could see. Durvasa Muni could see that that she would not be able to beget children, and because of that she could invoke any demigod and then beget children. So from that she got, I won't go into details, she got Yudhishthira, then Arjuna, then Bhima, and then from the second wife of Pandu came Nakul and Sahadev. Yeah. So that's the thing. So this is just like a little bit about the background on Kunti Maharani. So then we're going to move on to the next is like about the first challenge that came in is with Duryodhana. So what happened is that there was this gambling match, we all know about it, so I won't go into much detail. In that what happened is the main idea was so corrupt as far as Kauravas is concerned. They were actually wanting to get hold of another man's wife, which is Draupadi. So they kind of frauded and did things, and somehow they lost the gambling thing. And what happened is that, and Srila Prabhupada has so many times told us that gambling is connected to being untruthful. It's one of the 4 regulations we follow. So it's like just by cheating somehow. And then of course after that they went into exile for 13 years. So the trouble kind of just started on, with the family. And but at the same time I also want to mention, so we can also analyze at the end of the class that Kunti Maharani got help, we all know, right? And she fully surrendered. She got help from Krishna. So because he gave her like immense cloth, so they could not do anything. They could not see her naked, they could not do anything with her. She was completely protected. So that's one thing. Then we go to the next is everybody must have heard of Ashwatthama. He is the son of Drona. Yeah. So what happened is that his main thing was, obviously he was in the Kauravas side. So his association was what? His association was basically with them only. So what has happened is one demon is trying to please another demon. That's how it goes. So what happened is he thought that I'm going to kill the 5 sons of Draupadi. And once the sons are killed, then I'll please Duryodhana. That was his plan. But what actually he did is, a person's blind when he's in bad association. he actually killed the sons of the Pandavas, not the Pandavas itself. Because when he got those kids in front of Duryodhana, who was like half in he was in the battle not in good shape. When he saw, he was like, oh, what have you done? He was lamenting that these were the only heirs to the, you kind of killed them. But then, and out of that, I think it mentions that, it says that you have killed all our hopes. I had hoped that in our family at least the 5 sons would survive. So you killed them. So he was really lamenting on that, but he was trying to impress him, but that was lamentation for him. Okay, and then we come to the next point is that Ashwatthama again wanted to also kill Pandava. So we know about the story, right? What the Pandava that how again cut short like how Uttara was praying. Uttara is basically Abhimanyu, and Uttara's son is Parikshit Maharaj, and their parents were Arjuna and Subhadra. And Subhadra is sister of Krishna. So it's like coming from Krishna's lineage. So what happened is that every time she was in trouble, Uttara used to pray. She's coming from a devotee family. And then finally, of course, we've all heard in the Bhagavata how Krishna entered the womb and saved, Parikshit Maharaj. So that way, this comes in one of the prayers being answered. So that is one thing. And then the thing is, he wanted to finish the entire dynasty. So the people who have a demon-like mentality, they think, I can do this, I can do that. But mind, like we say in the Bhagavad Gita, the mind can become our enemy. That's what happened. The mind became his enemy and he tried to do that, but Krishna was there to protect Parikshit Maharaj. And of course, we know about the story of, they're going into the exile, like in the sense, once they went to the forest, all of them, they were given 13 years of exile. But when they came back, that time Yudhishthira was big enough, and he said, I wanted to, rule the planet. But then what happened? The kingdom. So what happened is that he says, no, I will not even give you like one, like a needle, So then he says, okay, I will send Krishna. So then, he sent Krishna there, and what happened is that he did not agree. He was so much of hungry for land and, all these things that that's how the war of Kurukshetra took place. And of course, we know how Krishna was always there on Arjuna's side. So another thing I want to mention is that one of the sons of Draupadi was Bhima, and he was, one time when they were in the forest, he was almost eaten by this Rakshas called Hidamma. But Lord himself came to protect, So these are some of the points which I have of, so like coming to, there was another thing which we heard stories about, about the, like, they were trying to actually literally kill them. I mean, this like big fight going on in the family. And one time what happened is when Duryodhana was able to succeed, then Dhritarashtra came forward and he made this house, which even if you match it, like it's going to like bombard. So what happened is that somehow Vidura was one of the cousins, he told him that, they are going to kill you. So because always see, again, some protection came through, sometimes Krishna sends protection directly, sometimes it comes through other people, So then what happened, they escaped. They made a tummy underneath and they kind of escaped out there. And so these are all the problems that came up. And in conclusion of this particular part, I would like to say that Kunti Maharani and his sons were put into difficulty one after another. But many misfortunes befell the Pandavas, but all circumstances, they simply depended on Krishna. So they were depending on Krishna, who always saved them. The Pandavas, the son of Pandu, were great devotees of Lord Krishna, but because people in the materialistic world are interested in material things, the Pandavas were put into many dangers. So what I understood from what Srila Prabhupada is saying here is that sometimes what happens, we get into difficulty because we get involved with people who are materialistic, and in the materialistic way, we also get entangled, So very nice line, I really found this very nice. The Pandavas, the son of Pandu, were great devotees of Lord Krishna. But because people in the material world are interested in material things, the Pandavas were put into many difficulties. So one question will come to mind, why were they put into difficulty? So this was interesting to note like that. And so that's the thing. I will discuss the qualities.
Why should we be Krishna?
Sorry?
Why is he pretty Christian?
Yeah. Prayers, right? Yeah. So now we're going to come to the prayers. Prayers part of the thing, the second bit. So what happened is that, like this is so interesting. Like the prayers of Kunti Maharani are so famous, and of course Marisha Mataji will also touch upon. So I will just briefly go over. I'm just going to go over the prayers because I have some limited time. You all have limited time here. So how this starts is the scene of the Lord's eminent departure provides the setting for Queen Kunti's exalted prayers. The moment she sees, okay, Krishna is departing, that is a time when, the prayers started. So, we're just going to go over some of the prayers, which I'm going to read, because I want to read them as it is, as Srila Prabhupada is given in quote in the book. So, the first prayer is connected to Krishna leaving. So, here, Kunti Maharani is saying, "Oh my Lord, you're leaving us today, though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us. Now, when all kings are at enmity with us." So this is from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:8-37. So she's directly addressing the God, Krishna God, that we are dependent on you and you're leaving us, like high and dry here. Please don't leave us. So that's one thing. Then the second prayer comes is, "My dear Krishna, your leadership has protected us from all the things which I went through, poisoned cake, from the great fire, from cannibals, from vicious assembly, from suffering during our exile in the forest, and to the battle where great generals fought, and now you have saved us from weapon of Ashwatthama," which was like, protecting Parikshit. "I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated birth and death." So this is the most famous prayer of Kunti Maharani, where she is, I'll just elaborate on the next, this thing. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam 1:8, 24 and 25. So she's asking for prayers because she knows she knows that Krishna will be there. So she's asking for suffering like that. So then, I want to read another prayer which is pertaining to Ganges and sea. "O Lord Madhu, as the Ganges forever flow in the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else." That's another prayer which she put forward. And there's another one, then I'm just going to sum up this. There's another prayer which is connected to Smaranam. So like we say, we should always think of Krishna 24 hours a day. We should always be remembering Krishna. So these prayers of Kunti Maharani help us because she says, Kunti is remembering how Krishna saved her and her sons one time after the other. So just like all the time. This is Smaranam. Thinking of Krishna. So in our material life also, when we have problems, we can think of Krishna all the time, And, like there's a Hindi saying that, "Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein, dukh mein kare na koi," But our Krishna consciousness, Srila Prabhupada has given us that, especially because of the process of chanting, we chant every day Lord's name, so we remember Lord. So we should always remember the God which is Krishna. This is Pranam, thinking Krishna. Krishna, you are so kind to us that you saved us from many great dangers. Without you, there was no hope. And I will just end here by one important thing is that, which I found very interesting from Srila Prabhupada's readings. Kunti Maharani was not self-serving herself. Her sufferings were far greater than those any ordinary person could endure. So some of us can look into our life. We don't have sufferings coming like that, somebody killing our child, burning us, or doing all these things. But those suffering came to her. She did not beg relief. On the contrary, she prays to suffer even more. Why? Like we read the prayers, I want to suffer more and more. For she reasons that her suffering will increase her devotion to the Lord and bring her ultimate liberation. So thank you so much. I just want to end with this beautiful prayer. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Now Oscar Prabhu is going to talk about what do Queen Kunti's prayers reveal about Krishna.
Can you put next one? Okay. Okay, so yeah, again, as I was reading, and I kept on reading the prayers and really trying to see what am I learning, what am I reading here. So I kind of asked myself, what can I learn here? So I wanted to start off with this text from the teachings of Queen Kunti. Prabhu, can you please read it? You have to turn on the mic, Prabhu.
O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes which appear to be human and so are misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial.
Thank you, Prabhu. Is there anything that stands out to you, Prabhu?
Because he appears as a human, we think, or not we, some people can think that, he's just one of us, he's not the Supreme Lord. And sometimes his pastimes make us think that he's partial to some and, not good to others, even though he is trying to be fair with everybody. That's what I took away.
Yes, Prabhu. Excellent. And I follow because I had a very similar train of thought where, hearing Rupini speak and through reading the prayers, I couldn't help but think to myself, Krishna is merciful, right? Krishna was so merciful to Queen Kunti. And in their prayers, Queen Kunti is basically saying here that we only imagine that Krishna is merciful to devotees only, right? But in reality, Queen Kunti is telling us, no, Krishna is merciful to all. And so, this was mentioned in this verse or text. It was mentioned in the text, something very similar in the text right before this. But I really like the purport to this one, where Srila Prabhupada, he gave the analogy of sun rays, right? And he gave an analogy, and I'm going to kind of run with that analogy and kind of put my own tweak to it. So he was saying, we can all realistically, if the sun is out, we could all receive the rays of the sun, right? So in the same way, we are all able to receive the mercy of Krishna in that same sense. But and this is something that I like to do personally, is in the morning, it's very beneficial to go outside and get sunlight, right, in the beginning of the day. So I usually go out in the morning and I go with just shorts on, right, to get absorb as much sun as possible in the morning, right? So how much sun am I getting in comparison to someone who's wakes up, right, and stays home inside their room, has their curtains closed, and they don't turn on even the lights, the electricity to their house, right? There's a big difference there in me receiving that sunlight versus the person that doesn't leave their room and has their curtains closed and doesn't turn any electricity on. They're not receiving much sun there, right? So although the ability to receive mercy from Krishna is there, it's there. Some of us, the more devotees, pure devotees like Queen Kunti, right, they take advantage of the mercy of Krishna, where, all conditions are like myself, although I do get sunlight, but I try to be more conscious of Krishna, right, and in order to see where His mercy is working in my life. So that, within the prayers, I'm thinking, okay, Krishna is merciful. He's merciful to all. He's not partial. He was willing to give mercy to all. And I did want to share one line that Prabhupada says, just because I thought it was very powerful. He goes, such partiality in receiving the Lord's mercy is relative to the recipient And it is not due to the partiality of the all-merciful Lord. So again, there's Prabhupada's words of saying it's not Krishna, it's not up to Krishna, it's up to us realistically to want to receive and be able to see His mercy. And I think the biggest one is being able to see Krishna's mercy in our lives, right? I think that's the biggest setback for us, is we're unable to see Krishna's mercy in our lives. And I'm looking for the answer within the prayers. And in another text number 9. So I'll read this one, text number 9. So in text number 9 it says, "My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself, respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty cannot approach you with sincere feelings." So, again, I'm searching for the answer here. Okay, how can we be more receptive to Krishna's mercy? And then I come across this verse and I say, okay, we must be, it appears, Queen Kunti is telling us, we must be materially exhausted, right? Okay, we're materially exhausted. What's the opposite of that? It's, okay, one who is on the path of material progress. So, Rupini Mataji also mentioned, as she was speaking, being materially driven, right? That's the word I kind of took away. It's, we're in a time where we're so materially driven. And I see that, I see that a lot in my work, right? And for those of you that don't know, I work with young kids, with young soccer players, and you see that, especially with the influence of social media, right? And I'm sure that social media has a big influence on all different type of professions. But in regards to my profession, it's young kids, right? Seeing professional athletes, right? They're seeing professional athletes and they're seeing, oh, they have the nice cars, right? They have money, the nice houses, the great family, they have the fame, right? Then they have the status, the position, right? So all of these young athletes, these young soccer players are seeing this. So, and what do? They aspire, right? Their aspirations are, I want that fame, or that beauty, that money, that title. So they at a young age, the material consciousness starts to develop, right? There's no spiritual consciousness in there. It's just material. We're materially driven, and I'm sure again, I think I can only assume that social media has that same influence in whatever field that you work on. It just shows us how to gain these material opulences, right? These material gains. And if these children continue to just be driven materially, they're never going to be satisfied, right? They're going to just continue to want this and want that, which is temporary, and it's not going to be, really satisfy the heart's desire. So I don't think it's until they are materially exhausted in trying to gain these material things, right? And realize, oh, these material things are not going to fulfill me. What's actually going to fulfill me is Krishna's mercy, seeing Krishna in our lives, right? So, big thing that I was focusing on is, okay, what kind of not to do, what not to do, what can Queen Kunti show us, right? And so I think in this verse it was really showing us we must become materially exhausted in order, to just take a step forward in being able to see Krishna's mercy within our lives. And I'll speak a little bit more about that on my next topic, but before then, Marisha Mataji would speak more about calamities.
Calamities. That's a buzzword. So now that we know the backstory of Queen Kunti, and we've heard a couple of Queen Kunti's prayers, we're going to be focusing on one of my personal favorite prayers of Queen Kunti. I like this picture. So this is the house that they built out of fire, right? You can see it on fire in the background. And then there's Kunti and the five Pandavas there escaping the house. So that was one of the calamities that was mentioned. So if somebody can read this verse on the screen, that would be good.
Where's the mic at?
Mike.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. No? You don't want to read?
Can I go a little bit closer? Because
Yes,
Yes,
of course.
As close as you need.
no, English.
You can just read the English if you want.
Okay, I'll do that because I was like, if I try to, it might not be right, but I'll try.
Yeah. Just
Okay. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. Foreseeing you means that we no longer see repeated births and deaths.
okay, nice.
Haribo.
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 But so before we get into this verse, we kind of need to understand the context behind this verse, right? So in the previous verse, Queen Kunti was expressing gratitude to Krishna. She's like, I'm very grateful that you saved me and my sons from the poison cake, from the house of fire, and all the other sufferings during the Pandavas' exile. And now that the calamities have been solved and Krishna is leaving to go back to Dwarka after the battle, she's asking these verse for these miseries again, because then Krishna would still be here. So if there were more miseries, Krishna would have stayed. So before you guys panic, we should not wish for more calamities. Yeah, I can hear the sighs of relief in the crowd. So again, we should not wish for more calamities, because honestly we have enough to deal with. So you can't turn on the news without hearing all the problems in the world, right? So in the Kali Yuga, there's just so many calamities. You know, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that the material world is a dangerous place full of calamities. So we should not wish for more calamities, because we have plenty of calamities. We have enough to deal with. And if you really want to have more calamities, you can go wash the pots in the kitchen. There's plenty of pots to wash, don't worry. So, since we have established that we will always have these calamities, how do we manage these calamities? Some people might say, oh, I'll just plan for all these calamities, make sure I'm fully prepared. But even the most prepared person will face calamities, right? They'll prepare for the hurricane, the tornado, the fire, and all that. But there'll inevitably be something that they didn't prepare for, right? And they're so consumed with just preparing for calamities. Right? I gotta prepare this, I gotta get this. They have no time for Krishna conscious activities. So they're just so consumed. Okay, so preparing doesn't work, right? How about avoiding calamities? We'll just never go anywhere. We'll stay at our house, we'll never go on the road with all the crazy drivers on the road, you know? We'll just stay safe in our house, in our little box, we'll never do anything, right? Does that sound great?
Yeah.
You can't do
One day is no internet, yes.
Yeah. So you're so absorbed with all the calamities. I gotta avoid this. I gotta avoid that. You have no time for Krishna conscious activities. So, or people will work hard. They'll be like, okay, I'll work for 50 years. I'll retire and I'll have the best life. I'll sit on the beach every day and it will be great. What's the problem with that? You're gonna get old. You're gonna have back pain. You're gonna have all these pains, and that's more calamities. So preparing, avoiding doesn't work. So what's the solution then? So I'm gonna pull up Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 14. If somebody could read that, Upananda Prabhu, could you please read?
O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of heat and cold, happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception. Those signs of Bharat, one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed.
So what did you understand from that verse?
Is that Happiness and distress come and go, they're temporary, like the summer and winter seasons. Nothing we can do about it. The rain falls, so put up the umbrella. We must be so, we must not be disturbed. We just must tolerate. Because it will pass. No distress is permanent. It will pass. You just have to not tolerate it.
So it's actually all about our mentality during the calamities. So Srila Prabhupada gives the example. So if a bug sits on the asan, does that make him the guru? No. So the bug may sit on the same seat with the spiritual master, but because the spiritual master has that elevated consciousness, then, and the bug obviously does not, so they are different. The bug is the bug, the spiritual master remains a spiritual master, even though they're in the same place. So people might be experiencing the same calamities, but it's all about the mentality, right? So when calamities are occurring, we kind of have to train our mind to be steady and tolerate. So without a steady mind, we're going to be heavily controlled by our emotions. It's going to be like a roller coaster that goes like this, right? But we don't want that. We kind of want a nice, smooth ride, right? So with a steady mind, we can take anything, any calamities that are come with us. So how do we train the mind to be steady? So Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he uses the example of a restless child. A few of you have children here. You know it's pretty hard to keep them occupied if you just say, sit there, be quiet, right? So Srila Prabhupada says you need to engage them with something. You give them a toy, you give them like a picture book, right? So they can draw. So if we want to reduce restlessness or everything being controlled by our emotions, we have to engage it with something. So to pivot just a bit, how many of you have heard the story of Noah's Ark? It's like a Bible story. So I've read a little bit about the Bible, so I don't know it fully, but from what I understand, there was a lot of evil people on the planet. They were diverting their attention from God. But Noah was serving God very nicely, so God told Noah, hey, build a boat. You're going to put all the animals on the boat, and there's going to be a big flood. So I want you to build this so that we'd be prepared. So he builds a boat, and I think it was something like 120 years it took to build the boat or something. And he got all the animals that are on the boat, or at least most of them. He forgot the unicorns. So all the animals and pious people were saved in this way. So in Krishna consciousness, we actually also have an ark that will save us from the calamities. So does anybody have any idea what our ark could be? No. I'll give you a hint. It's an acronym.
Never mind. I didn't. Association reading and kirtan.
That might help, but it's not what I'm thinking of. Anybody?
Is that the acronym?
It's the acronym.
Okay, K for Krishna.
K for Krishna. There you go.
Yeah.
We got one, right?
Bingo.
What about R for Radha?
No. Okay.
Always remembering Krishna.
There you go. Always remember Krishna. So.
It's true.
That's always remember Krishna. That's going to save us from the big flood of calamities, right? So there's actually a prayer from Brahma's prayers to Krishna in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nope. So there's a prayer in the Srimad Bhagavatam from Brahma's prayers to Krishna, and it says, for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation, and is as famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon, the ocean and the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoof print. Their goal is Param Padam, Vaikuntha, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. Right, so if we remember Krishna and accept what Brahma uses as the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, so the flood of calamities, that big ocean, will be reduced to the water from a cow's hoof print, which is very, very small. So, does anybody have any examples from the Srimad Bhagavatam Mahabharata where personalities who had those calamities and remembered Krishna? There's a couple good examples out there. Yes, Simanti?
Draupadi.
Draupadi, that's good. That's my second example. So I want to see who can figure out the first example of mine. It's pretty famous one.
Could you repeat the question?
What are some examples from Srimad Bhagavatam or other books about personalities who had calamities and they remembered Krishna?
Kunti.
Yes. Yes, that's a good example. Not the one I'm looking for. Gajendra is another good example.
Draupadi.
Draupadi,
Oh, is
somebody
it?
did say that. Yes.
Prahalad.
Prahlad Maharaj, right?
Oh.
So, right, Prahlad Maharaj had so many calamities thrown from him. His father was trying to kill him, right? So he had him with snakes and a pat of burning oil. He gave him poison. So many calamities, right? But what did Prahlad do? All he did was, even at a young age, he was like 5 years old. He just remembered Krishna. And he was saved from the poison, the vat of burning oil. Now that doesn't mean we should go in a vat of burning oil and just remember Krishna and we'll all be good. It doesn't work like that. But that's a good example. And then the one Samandi gave, Draupadi, right? So, as Rupini Mataji said, her husband's gambled her away. So they were dragging her out to just robe her in front of everybody. So she asked the king, she asked grandfather Bhishma, she asked Dronacharya. They were not helping her. And eventually she just surrendered to Krishna, and then Krishna supplied with unlimited cloth. On the other side of the coin, I'm going to give an example from my own life about how when I did experience a calamity and I didn't remember Krishna. So when I was still in school, I took physics my first semester, and I wasn't, I guess, prepared, and I got a 55 on my first test. That's pretty close to failing. And I was going in to take my second test, and tests are the majority of the grade. So I'm like, okay, I gotta get a good grade, and then I'll be fine. So I took a look at the first problem, and I was like, I don't know how to solve it. And I don't know how many of you have had panic attacks, but your throat closes up, you feel like you're gonna faint, and it's like, you feel like you're gonna die right there. Like, I'm just gonna drop. So I was just like panicking, and I was like, I need to leave. So I was able to get out. I lied down, and it took me hours to calm down, right? Shishimi Taiwan Nataraj Ki Jai. So that's where steadiness of the mind could have helped me, right? I was so focused on, okay, I'm gonna fail this test, I'm gonna fail the class, I'm gonna drop out of school, I'm gonna have to work some bad job, and I'm gonna live in some poor little house on the side of the road, and I was just spiraling, right? So, but if I had kept my mind steady and just thought of Krishna, like, Krishna, you get us through these calamities, it's not gonna be the end of the world, you might have to retake the class, but you're not gonna go all the way down, down, down. So if I kept my mind steady and remembered Krishna, I might not have like gone to the level of like having a panic attack. And I would have failed in style because I was definitely failing that test. It was not good. So now that we know that we should train our mind to be engaged in Krishna, how can we always remember Krishna, right? It's a process. Swami, can we go straight from preschool to college? No. Have you tried? You tried, okay. So there's a set process with steps, right? So one thing Srila Prabhupada says we can do to help to get that point is to dovetail activities we're already doing to be in Krishna's service. So I'm just going to read this quick quote from the purport. If one always sees Krishna, one is in Krishna consciousness. For Krishna consciousness means always thinking of Krishna. One's consciousness should be absorbed in Krishna thought. Therefore, the spiritual master gives different varieties of engagement to devotees in Krishna consciousness. For example, under the direction of the spiritual master, the devotees may sell books in Krishna consciousness. But if the devotees think that the energy invested in selling books should be diverted into selling jewelry, then that is not a very good idea. then they would become nothing more than jewelers. We should be very much careful not to be diverted from Krishna consciousness. So we just have to divert activities we're already doing into Krishna consciousness. It can be very obvious, such as those pots that are in the kitchen, or something like driving to the temple program, which is not something you would think of as devotional service. I'm just driving, I'm not doing anything. But if you're doing it with the intention of, I'm going to the temple program, that is something that can be dovetailed in Krishna's service. Just a couple examples, because we're running a little low on time. Does anybody have any examples on how they can dovetail their activities in the service of Krishna? Yes?
Instead of enjoying boga, we can enjoy prashada.
Prasadam. Nice. Anybody else?
Oh, when I talk to my friends, I can make sure it's about Krishna conscious topics.
Ah, yes. Always talk about Krishna, yes. Yes, Prabhu.
If you're coloring, you can color in Krishna Leela pastimes and stuff.
Ah, that's a good idea. So, I'm gonna just end here with a paragraph from... Oh, sorry.
Play Krishna Snakes and Ladder.
Ah, Krishna Snakes and Ladders, if anybody was here for a bunch of Govinda's class. So I'm going to just end my section with a paragraph from Srila Prabhupada's purport.
One second question.
Yeah.
You want to say something?
Oh, sorry.
Jai.
Play like educational games instead of like just like.
Somebody have a microphone? Thank you, Prabhu.
Play like educational games.
Nice. Yeah. So there's games out there where you can play like Krishna conscious games where they're still like.
Leela.
Hmm?
Like there's this game called Leela.
Mm-hmm.
It's an original version of Shoots and Ladders.
Ah. Right. I remember that.
We brought it.
So-
We'll show anybody who wants to see it later.
So I'm going to just end with a paragraph from Srila Prabhupada's purport. As long as we are in this material world, there must be calamities, because this is a place of calamity. But even with calamities, our business should be to develop our Krishna consciousness, so that after giving up this body, we may go back home, back to Krishna. So now Rupini Mataji is going to talk about the qualities of Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we're discussing, very nice, thank you, Marisha Mataji and all. We do the qualities, some of the qualities of Kunti Maharani. We focused on the calamities, and so nicely Mataji mentioned how we have to remember Krishna, so the PowerPoint. And also a little bit, I wanted to mention about Kunti's relationship with Krishna also clubbed together. So now we must have heard this, that first we're discussing about not the relation but qualities. So as I mentioned in the previous, Kunti Maharani had some benediction, because what happened is that she was basically, her father's name was Surasena, but her father was so merciful that he had a cousin called Kunti Bhuja. So she gave her child, daughter to Kunti. That's how the name came also, Kunti Bhuja. And what happened is in her, like in America they say stepdad, right? So, yeah. So at her father's place, in Vedic culture they say father, okay? Right? So at her father's place, her duty was to take welfare of the, she would take care of the welfare of the guest. So one day what happened, there was a sage who came, her name is Durvasa, and he was very pleased with her services. So he, and you know, in earlier times, what used to happen in India is when these sages and all came, we would, it was supposed to be very, very auspicious, you know, you wash their feet, give them an asana to sit, ask them for water, it's very, very auspicious. So what happened is, foreseeing, the sage who came, he could foresee that Kunti Maharani is going to have difficulty conceiving sons. Yeah. So Durvasa gave her a benediction that would invoke any demigod by his own progeny. So I went over it, but it's like, basically what happened is that now Kunti's special benediction enabled her to conceive 3 sons. 2 sons were from the other wife, whose name is Madri, Pandu's second wife. So now everything she did after her husband's consent, not like that. So she told Pandu, because Pandu was helpless, she could not. So the first person she invoked is, she invoked Dharma, the demigod of religion. So after worshipping him and repeating an invocation, Durvasa had taught her. She united with Dharma and in the time gave birth to a son named Yudhishthira. So actually a voice came, the invisible voice said, this child will be Yudhishthira. And then he had qualities like he was very virtuous, the eldest son. He will be splendid, determined, renounced and famous throughout the three worlds. Then what happened, like the first son was born now, Pandu, her husband, wanted her to have another son with a lot of strength. So he told her, why don't you invoke Vayu, the demigod of wind. So she, went and had a son named Bhima. And then the voice came, the child will be foremost in strong men. So she had the second son. Then Pandu said that, Indra, the king of heaven, is very pleased with you. So go invoke and conceive a son from this one, Indra. So Kunti invoked Indra and came and begot Arjuna. Arjuna was begot from this thing. So then another voice came saying that, oh Kunti, this child will be strong as Kartavya and Sibi, and invisible in battle as Indra himself. He will spread your fame everywhere and acquire many divine weapons. So we can understand that she's coming from, like we say in the Bua, she's a Bua of Lord Krishna. So in devotees' family, special things happen. So these things happen because although she couldn't give birth to children, but then the Durvasa Muni helped her out. And then her other wife gave birth to, Pandu's other wife gave birth to Nakul and Sandip, like that. So now two more qualities I want to really quickly discuss. One is Kunti Maharani's intelligence, and then we'll come upon her humility, really quick. So what happened is that Kunti Maharani knew, she recognized that whenever Krishna came to her, he would come and bow down and touch her feet. But at the same time, she was not very appreciative of it, but because she knew that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So her position was such that materially she knew that, he's my nephew, but internally she knew he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there are some quotes I want to read, which is directly coming from Srila Prabhupada. Kunti said, you are not seen by ordinary men, although you are everywhere, inside and outside. She's saying that, Kunti Maharani. Fools and rascals cannot see you. By you, it's a capital U, is referring to Krishna. You are transcendental to this material creation. This indicates that Srila Prabhupada says that Kunti actually saw, otherwise why would she say these things? That's so, basically she's a very intelligent person, and my conclusion of this thing is because Srila Prabhupada says, anybody in Krishna consciousness, everybody cannot go to a diamond shop, Anybody in Krishna consciousness, like going to a diamond shop, it's not like going to an ordinary shop where you buy artificial jewelry of, few thousand rupees or a couple of dollars. Is any person who's in Krishna consciousness has to be intelligent. So she was an intelligent lady and she knew Krishna is Supreme Personality Godhead. And last we're coming to her quality of humility. In this I would like to read a quote. Kunti Devi humbly submits. Now she's a woman, so she humbly submits. Now she's addressing Krishna. You are meant for the Paramhansa. And Munis, those who are cleansed in heart and are engaged in Bhakti Yoga. But what are we? We are simply women. We are in a lower class. How can we understand you? Although she understood everything, she still takes the position of an ordinary woman and says, how can I understand you? She's telling Krishna. So this is also shows a sign of her being very humble. So we read this quote from Lord Chaitanya, Pranadati Sunichena Tarurupi Sarishtam Amarina Mandena Kirtitya Sadahari. So that means that what is Lord Chaitanya has given us, that we have to be humble like a blade of grass. You go outside, there's a long grass, step on it, will come back again. It doesn't say anything to you. So every time you see a grass, you should remember that you have to develop the quality of a grass, because this is given by Lord Chaitanya, who is not different from Krishna. And also tolerant like a tree. Now winters will come after fall. You know how the trees become. They just tolerate. And when the spring comes, they will spring up. So they're just standing there in the cold or summer. Summer they enjoy, but winter is very bad for the trees. So that's why, our acharyas have not even looked at the species of living. Our acharyas have looked into species of everything, every living entity. The grass which is growing green is also a living entity. So, that's what they've given this so much to us through the literature and books of Srila Prabhupada. And I'm going to end this thing with relationship. So this was very interesting to read from the book. Like, I think I have 2 points to discuss on this. One is that this is from Bhagavad Gita, 4.7 and 8. But Kunti was Lord Krishna's aunt, we know that. Bua, we said. Bua is like aunt in English. And yet, despite this conventional tie with the Lord, she fully understood his exalted and divine identity. She knew full well that he had descended from the abode in the spiritual world to rid the earth of demoniac military powers and re-establish righteousness. So from this, Srila Prabhupada is telling us, why did Krishna descend? He descended because he wanted to get rid of the demons and all the people who are not with the right consciousness. And there's another relationship which Srila Prabhupada mentions is that Kunti knew that Krishna was neither her nephew nor her ordinary family member. This is spoken by Srila Prabhupada, so I'm just saying it as it is. Kunti knew that Krishna was neither her nephew nor an ordinary family member or her from a paternal family, from a father's side family. She knew perfectly well that Krishna is the pregnable Lord who lives in everyone's heart as the super soul, Paramatma. Another name of Paramatma, features of the Lord, is Kala or eternal time. So there was just a small bit which is I really liked, to read. I'll just read it out. I really found interesting. Eternal time, like sometimes we normally say, this is one question which normally comes up in the Hindu community, that why I'm suffering, why God is not helping me, like that. I mean, what have I done? Have I done bad karma? And like they'll keep on going into this lamentation mode. But here Srila Prabhupada gives the solution. He says, eternal time is a witness of all our actions, good and bad, and thus resultant reactions are destined by him, that is Krishna. It is not use saying, my spelling mistake, it is no use saying that we do not know why we are suffering. We can forget the misdeeds for which we may suffer at the present moment, but we must remember that Paramatma, our constant companion, and therefore Krishna Paramatma is our constant companion, and therefore he knows everything, past, present and future. And because the Paramatma feature of the Lord Krishna destines all actions and reactions, he is the supreme controller. So here, basically, of course, Kunti Maharani knew that he is, she's the, Krishna is the supreme controller, So, I mean, just imagine that, you're in a position in your home, I just want to give reasoning, in your family, you're in a position of being an aunt, and then you have your brother's son, who's the supreme personality of Godhead, he's touching your feet, everything, and you know that he is, someone supreme. So even being in that position, like, it's not easy. Like, with Yashoda, if we compare the relationship of Krishna, it's like Yashoda knew that Krishna is not my son. So it's like how we hear about the Leelas, where no one in the Golika Dham knew that Krishna is our brother, whatever it is. But here Kunti Maharani knew. But still, she was accepting his obeisances and everything. And accordingly, she, was a very intelligent lady. And while I was driving and coming, I was hearing one small lecture of Srila Prabhupada, and he mentioned her, comparing her to, one last thing I want to mention is that when we talk about calamities, I want to mention one thing, that we have to understand that the Krishna we pray to, is very merciful. He's very merciful, he's in our heart, he's in the holy name, he's everywhere. And, we heard the story of how his 7 brothers were killed in the jail. And he was the 8th one, but Krishna did not help his own mother, Devaki. Why he didn't help? Because Krishna knew my father is there. So Krishna leaves for us in this material world people who are our brothers, relatives, husband, who protect us and take care of us. But Krishna knew that Kunti, as I mentioned, Pandu, he died very early. And there were 5 young sons and she traveled everywhere with them. So Krishna knew that's why Krishna was protecting her. So we should always remember, sometimes we can say a person doesn't have a husband, or maybe sometimes a husband is not a devotee, and Krishna is our husband. Krishna is our everything, So he will be there for us. So we should not lament on anyone's death or anything like that, because he will always be there with us, just like he was there with Kunti. Because of our position, he understands. But we have to know all these things about Krishna, that he's bhavagrahi, he's a very emotional person, he's very caring. Only through Srila Prabhupada's books. There's no other way we can come to know about Krishna. Only through Srila Prabhupada's books. So thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So now Oscar Babu is going to be talking about developing the necessary vision to see Krishna.
Sorry, can I ask a question?
Questions will be at the very end. Thank you.
I have a question for you. Okay, I would like for the volunteers to try to answer. How do we develop the necessary vision to see Krishna? Right? Anyone have any ideas? How do we develop the necessary vision to see Krishna? Because before, when we were materially driven, we weren't able to see Krishna, right? As I was saying before.
Approach a guru first.
Approach a guru. Okay. That's good. Anyone else? Good.
Knowledge and faith. Knowledge that the Aksha Vigraha form is Krishna. So we can see Krishna there. And faith that that's Krishna. So we don't have that spiritual vision to actually see Krishna. So the Aksha Vigraha form is the Maharishi incarnation, where we can see him, we can bow down to him, we can offer over to him, we can bless him. So it's knowledge and faith. This is what.
Yeah, good answer too. And I will definitely touch upon things that you have mentioned. So I just want to give a big opportunity to, because I'm sure everyone's going to have an answer that is relevant, is definitely relevant. Mataji?
So I guess how to start developing that necessary vision to see Krishna. By serving Krishna, by dovetailing your activities to be in the service of Krishna, you can start seeing Krishna first in ways like, oh, I can buy this boga so that I can give it to Krishna, or you start seeing Krishna in your daily activities, like, oh, I can give this to Krishna, I can give this to Krishna. And then eventually you'll start to be able to understand, this is Krishna, Krishna is everywhere, and you start seeing Krishna within the other devotees after you associate with them long enough, or even in other people, you'll eventually get to a level of being able to see Krishna as Paramatma. But yeah, you just have to serve Krishna.
Yeah.
Start seeing him.
Huh? Always remember Krishna. Yes, that's good, Prabhu. That's good. We're taking away from the talk today, which is great. And I think all good answers, right? All good answers. Service definitely is important. Faith, knowledge, right, is definitely important. Always remembering Krishna is important. And as I'm reading, it's funny because as I'm continuing to read the prayers, and right before the talk, I spoke to Prabhu over here, and we were talking a little bit, kind of what did you learn from reading these prayers? And I'm kind of thinking, you stumped me for a second. I've been reading these prayers, and I don't really know how to respond to that, But it's, I came to the realization in the sense that, okay, I've been reading a lot, and I've been thinking a lot more about Krishna. Now, topics of Krishna are stemming up in my life a lot more, right? And it's because I've been, me reading has not only had my mind now think more about Krishna, but it's also engaged my conversations more, not only with devotees, but also non-devotees, right? People that are in my regular life that I'm I'm giving a talk with some devotees, at the temple, and they're like, oh, what's it about? And so even in my ordinary life, I'm having more Krishna conscious conversations. And again, I was looking at the prayers and trying to look at the Sastra and say, okay, does Kunti have any hints, and if you could pull up, and I'll read this one. It says, "O Krishna, those who are continuously here, chant and repeat your transcendental activities, or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. So, again, I just think it reiterates the point of hearing, the importance, and Prabhupada really drove in the purport about hearing. But even further than that, he said you have to hear from the right sources, right? So if someone said guru, someone say guru before? Yeah, probably said guru, right? We have to hear from the right sources. And I was wondering, when I heard this, right, there was one person that came to mind. I was like, oh, I remember that he was hearing from the proper sources, and he became a devotee of the Lord. For me, that was a person, and I don't want to say the name just yet, because I want to see if anyone else can think about an example in Shastra where maybe someone was not a devotee and heard from the proper sources, and it deepened their...
All of us in this country.
Yes. So, does anyone have any examples?
All of us from its country.
All of us from its country. Does anyone know the story of Narmuni? Yeah? Everybody know the story of Narmuni? Do you want to, just briefly, yeah. How he came into being the...
So Narmuni, before he was Narmuni, he was a young little boy, about 5 years old. Seems to be popular age. And he very, very much loved his mother, had a very strong attachment to his mother. Had a very strong attachment to his mother. So one day, some devotees, Vaishnavas, were traveling through, and his mother accepted them into her household to serve them. You know, made prasadam for them, got them water, this and that, served them for a few months. And in that time, Narmuni was also serving these wonderful devotees alongside his mother. And while serving, he was, learning from, listening to them. And one day, they even gave him the mercy of allowing him and offering him their remainings, their prasadam. And then, I guess I'll stop there.
That's good, Prabhu. I think the main point that you're saying, right, hearing his association there was Vaishnavas, right? And hearing about Krishna, he eventually started to develop a taste, right? And this taste grew and grew, and now his taste for material conversation or material pursuits changed, and he had a higher taste now, right, to hear about the Lord. So again, in the purport, Prabhupada mentions hearing from the right sources. And there was one line that I really enjoyed him saying, and it says, when the hearing process is perfect and complete, the other processes become automatically perfect in their own way. So if we hear, Prabhu, right, if we're constantly hearing about Krishna, and we're hearing about how we should approach the deities, how we should see the deities, then when we come into the temple, we can really understand more fully the mercy that we are receiving to be able to come and see the deities. Mataji was mentioning serving, right? Devotional service, doing things and thinking about Krishna. The more we hear, we're hearing, we're reading, and we're hearing from the right sources, the more our consciousness starts to now say, okay, I'm doing this, and I could be thinking about Krishna. Calamities, right? Calamities could be happening, and all of a sudden, I start thinking about Krishna, right? So if we continue to hear from the right sources, then, and I think steadily hear, and hear from the right sources, and continue to hear regularly, I think it really starts to change our consciousness from that material consciousness to more of that Krishna consciousness, and it allows us to now have that vision, right, to be able to see Krishna more, to see the mercy of Krishna in our lives. I know Mataji would speak. Go deeper into that.
So I'm just going to do a conclusion application of Queen's Kuntis, because we talked about a lot of things today. We didn't even cover all of the prayers of Queen Kunti. So, but how can we apply their teachings into our daily lives. Why did Srila Prabhupada give the lectures on these prayers, which the book is based upon? So that we can use these teachings to improve our life. If all we do is listen, we're listening, sounds good, leave, don't do anything about it, we'll become stagnant in Krishna consciousness. So while I was reading the book, one of the themes that I was reading was devotional service. So the words devotional service are actually mentioned in 18 out of the 26 verses. So as Bhaskar Prabhu said, Queen Kunti mentioned in the 19th verse about hearing, chanting, and repeating the Lord's transcendental activities. So Srila Prabhupada mentioned devotional service so many times because of how important it is. So devotional service means, of course, activities performed for the pleasure of Krishna and not for our personal pleasure. So that's like dovetailing activities. So those activities become devotional service when we are doing it for Krishna instead of ourselves. So we've learned a lot. We need to take it one step at a time. So there's a famous quote, "It's not the destination, it's the journey that matters." So one danger that we can have is we're so focused on the ultimate goal, right? Our ultimate goal, go back home, back to God. We're so focused on that. We forget, how do we even get there, right? So for example, if you want to be fit, right? You want to get big, strong muscles, you have this image in my head, I'm going to look like that guy. But if you just think, I'm going to look like that guy, you're not going to look like that guy. You actually have to start preparing that step-by-step program. And you can't start with the 300-pound weights, right? You got to start with the 10-pound weights, right? Even if it's like, okay, yeah. You got to start small, right? So a more spiritual example is like chanting 16 rounds. We can't be like, all right, gonna start chanting 16 rounds, day one. What's gonna happen, right? You're not gonna keep that steadiness. You're gonna do 16 rounds for a week, all fired up, and then you're like, oh, I'm tired of this. I'm not gonna do it anymore. So that's why it's important to start small. Start with the one round and focus on that one round. And once you feel comfortable, then you can go to 2 rounds. So you gotta make sure you're taking it step by step, so you're not rushing it, so you do it when you're truly ready. Remember, Krishna consciousness is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be a chore. It's supposed to be fun, right? So, Srila Prabhupada gives a quote about how Krishna is more interested in leading us down a path of liberation than we are in going. He has given us a very simple method. Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam. We need, the quote just ends there. We need only chant Hare Krishna. To perfect this chanting of Hare Krishna, there is no hard and fast rule. Simply by chanting, we will attain perfection. So we don't have to do these crazy tapasyas. We don't have to sit in a lake while it's freezing cold for like 10 hours. All we have to do, chant, dance, take prasadam. That's all that there is. And these chant, dance, take prasadam. They can all be done right here, Bhakti House, Orlando. Haribol! So, Bhakti House is a great place for taking those step-by-step processes. And we keep each other going, you know? For example, Gopi Bob, she'll ask me, how have you improved your sadhana this week? What have you done? Or Radhika Rupa, she'll be like, do you want to sweep the temple room? Do you really want to sweep the temple room, right? I'll be like, yeah, I do. So we all encourage each other, and we're not like overly pushing each other. It's just small step-by-steps, but it's a good system we have here. And everybody here has been key to helping me increase my path, I guess. So one of the topics we discussed, calamities. We usually think of the larger calamities, the floods, all that, but there are some what we call minor inconveniences, right? So if we don't have that right mentality, even the minor inconveniences can become obstacles on our back path to bhakti. So who knows what's coming up on October 11th? Ratha Yatra. There's the flyer. Take a picture. If you don't have a picture, it has the location, all the timings, all that. So they're Juggernaut Athletics, they're coming to Orlando. They're coming to UCF. It's right over there. So, but one person can't do it. One person cannot put on a festival, right? We have, what's the saying? Many hands make light work. So, if one person do it, it's a big calamity, right? But if we all work together, you know, we're just like, okay, you're gonna fry the samosas, you're gonna bring this, you're gonna do this. Split up the work. These big calamities will be more of minor inconveniences. But if we view it as minor inconveniences, then it's going to become an obstacle. But if we think about it as a service opportunity, change our mentality, we can make it a beautiful festival for the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and Jagannath Baladev Subhadra. So I encourage everyone, ask how you can help. It can be something small, you know? Pick up spoons. You just go to the store, pick up some spoons, bring them here. Something simple. You don't have to do some grand thing, you know? So I encourage everybody to think about how I can serve, right? So I hope everybody's been inspired today from the teachings of Queen Kunti. So I'm gonna just ask for a few volunteers to end it up, and I want you to answer these two questions. What teaching from Queen Kunti did you learn about today, and how will you apply those teachings in your life? You can go for a couple seconds, and who wants to go?
Hare Krishna. So, as you can see, I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. So it was an amazing presentation, and I like the way all of you actually spoke in the microphone and very effectively pointed out your points. And each of you actually, you know, gave different areas of understanding of the calamities, who Kunti was. So all of us, I'm sure, got a good understanding about the story behind it from the person who went through all the difficulties at the same time. So, question: how many prayers? Raise your hands, please. How many prayers were there? Were said by Queen Kunti? How many prayers were said by Queen Kunti? You know it. How many prayers? Number in the numbers. Raise your hand if you know the number. How many prayers were said? You guys, of course, you should know. Who else? But paid attention to the class. It's a two-digit number. Give you a hint.
24.
24. Sunil?
26.
26 is the right answer. Very good. How many prayers out of the 26 were about devotional service? Astamadaji?
18.
18, very nice. Now the last question. The topic was what? No?
Teaching.
No. No. What was the topic about? The main topic?
Story.
Samasi. Calamities. Yes, very good. Calamities. How many prayers were there out of the 26 about calamities? May there be calamities more and more, so you come on me like this. How many prayers were like that out of the 26? 26?
I saw one.
Only one prayer. Someone check one prayer now. All of you, if you know this prayer, you can say this prayer with me. Right? Not a calamity prayer. It's a funny. Kunti is going through calamities, but she's doing another prayer to Krishna. And that's the lesson we can learn from this class today. Out of those problems, only one problem she mentioned, that you will come to me, I will have calamities. All other prayers were in glorification. Right? So one of the prayers is Namaha Pankajanaabhaya, Namaha Pankajamaline, Namaha Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajangraye. Some of you know these prayers? You know this? Right? So this is the prayers, one of the prayers of glorification of the Lord. So this is what we have to offer ourselves as how much we can remember the Lord by praising the Lord. That's all enough. Our problems, He knows everything. Our calamities, He knows everything, right? So this is what we have to learn. As again, all three of them did an amazing job. And I was waiting to hear about the practical application we get from Bhakti Vasavana, and you mentioned it at the very end, thank God. And that was very nice that you did that. And the constructive cons, I didn't feel much engagement from the, not too much, but I would like a little bit more of interactions from the people out here. They can say the points are amazing, they're all great points, but a little bit more interactions from there. Let the people really share something it will be a little bit more, in a nicer way. But they can get to speak, even though it's right or wrong, we don't care, but I want the audience to say some words. Okay, before I give to somebody else, on October 29th, what day is it?
Sunday?
A Sunday, how do you do that?
I know the 31st is Tuesday.
Right, so on October 29th, we're gonna hear a panel discussion on the lessons we learned from Damodar Leela. And the panel will be headed by Radhika Rupa, Rasa Vigraha Prabhu, and Shri Tulsi Mataji. Right? So beginning of Damodar Leela, lessons we can learn from Damodar Leela's pastimes. You all can get enthused and ready for the whole month of the program. Okay, now who has questions or something else?
Questions will be a little later. I want people that first answer.
Okay,
these
yeah,
two
sorry, that questions.
Yeah, those two questions.
Please, very important, otherwise.
If we don't apply, how,
Yeah,
we didn't do
almost
anything.
These two questions first and then other questions.
I like the point about the calamities. Everyone goes through happiness and distress. Not everyone's life is a bed of roses. So, in Bhagavad Gita, you showed the words in Bhagavad Gita. There will be happiness and distress, which are equivalent to the seasons coming and going. So, Lord Krishna mentioned that we must tolerate those things. But you gave the simple formula, remember that Krishna. So that is the best thing. You trying to tolerate them on your own. Better to remember Krishna. That's my understanding.
So how will you apply it in your life?
I mean, some situations are experienced which I go through. I apply that.
Nice. Just, you can have a few more people.
May I proceed?
We're gonna do questions at the very.
It's not a question. It's an answer to your question of calamities.
Oh, okay.
That's what I wanted to do. It wasn't a question. I want to speak about calamities. I really liked your presentation. It was very illustrating. Thank you very much for that. And I just want to tell you how to apply into your real life the situation of calamities. You don't ask for more. You don't wish for less. What you do have to do is you have to accept. You have to have acceptance of what's given to you by Krishna, because it's meant for something. You need to have that to go through a process so that later on you learn. Through that process, you later on evolve. You had to have that. So don't ask for more, don't ask for less. Accept. The reality of that is for your practicality of your use of calamities in your real life is you don't have to ask for more, don't ask for less. Just accept. It is what it is. It's not in your control. You cannot believe that there's nothing you can do about it. It's what is. Therefore, accept and move on and be the best with what you have. And that is what Krishna, I believe, wants from you. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Anybody else want to answer these questions? Suresh Prabhu, can get the mic over here.
I think one example Dr. Oscar has given for the sun and then how much you will save it. I think Krishna is not a partial, looks like a partial where you see that he is inclined towards somebody. No, the full, and how much you approach him, accordingly you get it. So that is something I take it in teachings will be what I can apply is like increase the practice or something. Thank you.
Which aspect will you increase?
Increase the chance when a round of chanting, what I'm able to do gradually.
I say that because I feel that focusing on one at a time is more effective than trying to raise all of them,
Thank you.
Like the example of Oscar Prabhu from the sun, there's a saying we hear, you take one step towards Krishna, Krishna will take 10 steps towards you. So the motivation is there.
Any Matajis want to answer these questions? There's someone other than Marisha, but I know you've been very involved, but I'd like to hear from the other Matajis.
Just pass the mic at the back. If no one, maybe Rachel wants.
Thank you very much for the wonderful lecture. So one of the main things you said, keep listening, keep associating. The problem happens when we listen and forget. That should not, I think I'm myself fearful of that I have to keep listening and keep absorbing and keep listening and keep reading. It's very important to maintain that flow. In my past, I've made this mistake. I listen and forget and do nothing about it. That's my biggest fear.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
For the first one, the first question, the teaching about Kunti, I think when we talk about calamities, they keep coming and they keep coming and keep going through ups and downs. And I think the biggest part of the calamity is the arc. I really love that A-R-C-A-L-K, because always remember Krishna, and I think that is the whole reason why we get calamities, to make sure we learn how to remember Krishna. To the second question, one of the best things which the Prabhu you said about the sun and also serving. I think the thing which I get out of it is serve and surrender to whatever you do, whatever small action, big action, doesn't matter. Whatever you do, you're doing it for Krishna. It may be directly or indirectly helping someone else to be more close to Krishna consciousness.
Hare Krishna. So we all talked about the calamity, right? But again, I wanted to raise one point which Mataji talked about, the humbleness. So Kunti, see, Queen Kunti, she was the Bua of Lord Krishna, and knowing that, I am just, thinking how difficult it would have been for her to, accept the obeisances from Lord Krishna. So that is the one, example of, humbleness. So all of us, and how we apply, the teaching that I say, if we can be humble to everyone, right? That is one of the basic principles of Krishna consciousness, right? So that way, everyone, the newer people, they can learn more and more, and older people, they can share their experience, and people can get the balance of both, and they can, progress faster.
Thank you. So, before we get to questions about the topic, from you guys, I wanted to read the last paragraph from the last prayer from what Srila Prabhupada wrote, because it's such a beautiful paragraph. So, Queen Kunti prayed to the Lord just to enunciate a fragment of his glories. The Lord, upon hearing her prayers, which were composed in choice words for his glorification, responded by smiling, and his smile was as enchanting as his mystic power. The conditioned souls who are engaged in trying to lord it over the material world are also enchanted by the Lord's mystic powers, but his devotees are enchanted in a different way by the glories of the Lord. Thus, all the devotees worship the Lord by chosen words. No amount of chosen words are sufficient to enumerate the Lord's glories, yet he is satisfied by such prayers, just as a father is satisfied even by the broken linguistic attempts of a growing child. Thus, the Lord smiled and accepted the prayers of Queen Kunti. So I thought that was nice to kind of end the program with. So thank you for everybody for listening, and now we will take questions.
You kind of briefly talked about devotional services and dovetailing your activities into Krishna consciousness, just essentially doing things but adding Krishna to it. So that just reminds me of karma yoga. Karma is doing things you want to do but adding Krishna to it. So how do you what are examples of developing devotional service that's actually bhakti devotional service and not just karma yoga?
I think it's all about the mentality you have behind it. Why, you might be working for Krishna, but why are you doing it? You want to please the Lord, right? So it's all about how you think about it, right? It's not just I am working and I will offer my work to Krishna while I'm done. It's all about I am sweeping the floor because Krishna wants a nice temple, right? Or I'm washing the pots so we can have a clean atmosphere, right? So it's all about thinking about Krishna, right? So that's from what I understand.
Mataji,
So that was
I'm going to read a part of one of Prabhupada's reports, and I feel that it's relevant. Okay. A suffering man, if he is pious at all, prays to the Lord for his recovery. But as soon as the recovery is over, in most cases, the suffering man no longer is to keep any connection with the Lord. The mercy of the Lord is open for him, but he is reluctant to receive it. That is the difference between a pure devotee and a mixed devotee. Those who are completely against the service of the Lord are considered to be abject in darkness. Oh, hold on. There's a certain part that I want to go. Okay, I remember a point, I can't find it, but it was pure devotees or devotees of the Lord. They don't, when you do stuff in the devotional service, you don't expect anything in return. Or in karma yoga, you may be doing it with Krishna in mind and sometimes offering a result, but maybe underlyingly you may, it may be self-serving in substance, where more devotional service is wanting to serve Krishna and please Krishna without any, self-servingness.
I was actually going to answer your question, Marisha, for the ones that you had earlier.
That's okay, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead? Okay. First of all, it felt very short, Prabhuji. What happened? Last time when Radhika, Gopi Mata, what's your name? Gopi Mataji with another person presented, it felt nice and good. Today it felt really short. That must be because I was so consumed. Thank you for your time and effort. One thing that I wanted to answer your question, Marisha, that you had up there. What teaching did you learn from Kunti Mata? You said that she surrendered completely and then she got help, right? One of you said that. She surrendered completely and she got help. And I was wondering, how would I surrender completely and get help, and how can I apply that to my life? And I was thinking that maybe I get the calamities like too many headaches. I get migraines a lot. That is a calamity that Krishna brought into my life, and maybe at that time I should apply this surrender. Surrender that migraine came and the pain has come and the pain is going to go, and I should surrender. I'll try to exercise that and I will update you later.
Say something on that, migraine. Like I remember when before my Krishna consciousness, I used to get a lot of headache and migraine. And this is around 2008. I mean, a lot of headaches and like gastric problem and other things. But what happened is that the prasadam really does magic. Yeah, because what happens is when you eat only prasadam, I was like literally being a lot of doctors, that experience stopped. It stopped happening because whatever we are eating, it's the only thing we have control over. So when you take prasadam, then all these so-called things, because the thing is the three modes of material nature will keep on working, And when you take like pure sattvic khana, then that has an impact. It like, I was reading somewhere, it has the finer brains, like the food that we take has three things. One is it gives us energy, one is it has effect on our mind, and third one I'm forgetting. One is it has like impact, like it's in the Bhagavatam. Yeah.
Purifying you?
Yeah, it's one is definitely giving us because sometimes if you don't eat anything in the morning, say it's noon, you feel like fainting or something, you feel drowsy. have some banana, offer to Krishna. But then, so that food, whatever is going, is giving you energy. It also has a subtle effect on the body, you know. And some of the, we hear so much about diseases coming because of, you know, like stress, which is more like mental, subtle level. So, you know, once, I mean, I just want to say one thing, like I'm sure you're having prasadam, but if you make that really a strict rule, you know, of doing that, and then you see, you will not get migraines.
Now that she mentioned, I must say that during weekends I don't get migraines.
It's a state of mind. Basically, sometimes even if you, it's a state of mind. You know,
I have just.
I mean, you feel tired sometimes, and then maybe even if you're tired physically and you have something good coming, you don't feel the tiredness because it's a state of mind. So maybe we get tuned to that Krishna's serving, that the state of mind is such that you don't even feel your pain. I have experienced it myself.
Thank you.
So I want to add one thing, and I want to ask question to Rupini Padma Mataji, that how do you eat prasadam at home? Only you get prasadam at temple on Sunday.
Right.
So can you explain, Mataji?
Yeah, so eat prasadam is like, you know, you make your home like, some people are very addicted to going to restaurants and all, you know, it's very easy, go pick up everything. But you have to, I know a lot of devotees, I'll just divert, who have taken Krishna consciousness, because Krishna consciousness saves the money in their pocket. You go to a restaurant, 20 bucks you pay, right? And the same thing you go to, I'll give you an example of a bread, right? Small, very practical example. Places like Publix, people buy bread, which is almost like $7 now, right? You go to a store, whole store like BJ's or Sam's, 700 is such a big flour, you know. So I got like a machine, I got because Mataji had a machine, and I also got a bread machine. I try not to buy bread, but I like to eat bread. So that thing, I mean, it just cost me a few cents. You know, I just put it in the machine and it runs and the bread is ready. So yeah, Mataji's question is like, we have to make sure that, you know, we're cooking for Krishna. And the best way is that in your kitchen, it should be clean. You should think that the kitchen is not yours, it's Radharani's kitchen. It should be clean. And you have to make sure that, you know, when you're going to take only prasadam, take 2 meals in a day. You don't have to take 4 meals, you know, because sometimes it's like, because it's a process we go through. We take prasadam, we offer it, you know, yoga. So there's one Mataji who comes in our congregation, I learned from her, her name is Sudha Mataji. She just takes meal 2 times, morning and evening. And then elaborate meal is made at noon, before noon, and then one time in the evening before the sun sets. And then you just offer, and in the middle you can always keep fruits at the altar and have fruits, you know, you can, all the time you can have fruits. So Mataji, that's my answer.
Yeah, so whatever you buy, you offer to Krishna.
Yeah.
And that's called prasadam. So it's simple thing. You just go to the store, whatever you want to eat, except onion and garlic. Krishna doesn't eat. And of course, no meat and eggs.
Yeah.
So you just get everything and give it to Krishna.
I just wanted to say one thing. Like, I remember I saw Mataji offering figs to Shishimata Gauratraj. So I really liked them. So I got, you know, figs at home. I saw some figs in the kitchen. So there are some items which are going to be like cauliflower, which you want to cook, you know. There'll be some item like potato chips, which is pure ingredients, you know. I sometimes pick up ice cream also from beaches which doesn't have egg in it. Beach is the only place. Otherwise, everywhere there's ice cream. Like my husband and daughter like to eat different flavor. There's some brand that, so I just pick from there. I get it home, put tulsi leaf often. So even if you get it from outside or you are cooking at home, you know, like see, Krishna is more happy if you get a cauliflower, you cook, offer. He's seeing your effort. That's devotional service. But if you're getting from outside, because sometimes we do have to get, you know, like we're traveling, like I have to travel sometimes to Tampa or something. I just make quickly sandwiches and some potato chips I take, you know. So both are mixed items, but everything should be offered like Mataji said. Should be offered and taken. And one more thing I want to add, that like, you know, sometimes like I don't have deities at home, I have pictures, you know. But Krishna is absolute. So even if you have a picture and if you don't have deities, Krishna is absolute. He will also, a picture will also accept the offering.
Whenever you do the offering, you have to have a picture.
One thing I just want to add to Mataji.
Yes, Mataji is actually holding.
Yes, yeah. When I'm cooking, I usually keep reciting I keep chanting. So that whatever I'm reciting and chanting, it goes in my food. And then I'm offering it. So I keep chanting while I'm cooking. So I just, in a way, I'm offering it directly.
Thank you.
So unfortunately, I've been told we're out of time. So